What's up, guys? It's another Teach Me Tuesday, and we got an episode for you. Are we in a housing crash, a correction, or is it a comeback? One headline says prices are falling. Another one says inventory is rising, rates go up, rates then go down. What's actually happening in today's housing market, and what does it mean for you? So, in today's episode, we're cutting through all the noise, and we're going to talk about facts, strategy, and also opportunity. So let's get into it, LaShawn. Gavin is not here today. He has a very important event, but we're going to keep it moving today and talk about this amazing topic. What's really happening in today's housing market?
Yeah, such a good topic. Such a good topic. Let's just kick it off. Honestly, I haven't heard too many people ask this question. Maybe it's still a question that's in their head, like, are we in a crash, right?
Mm, right.
Um, I know back in what, okay, so we're in what, 2026 right now. I feel
Hmm.
like back in 2022, going into 23, when rates really started rising,
Hmm.
people were had this like huge like notion and a little bit of a fear that, oh my gosh, we're in a housing market crash, because we was coming off the high of historically low interest rate during COVID. And when they saw rates shooting up
Mm,
to high sevens, even 8%, things like
right.
that, they were thinking that, oh my gosh, the market is crashing. And vice versa. I'm pretty sure on your side, Wilmot, when you
Right.
had sellers, trying to sell their house, and as we started transitioning and the houses was sitting longer, quote
Hmm.
unquote, just because they
Hmm.
were used to houses flying off the market during COVID, sight unseen, 24 hours in a week,
Right.
those houses were just flying by. All of a sudden, if a house is on the market 30 days, 60 days or more, people think, oh my gosh, the market is crashing,
Right.
because things aren't moving in what they consider the normalcy of what they experienced during that time. What do
Right.
you think about that?
Right. I feel like that whole COVID, that whole situation with that was just an anomaly of an experience.
Okay, I like that.
We we had such a rise in the market, and then after that, we have seen somewhat of a correction in the market. So I will say that into a normalization. I remember prior to it, this was how the market was. Houses did sit on average 30 to 60 days or maybe longer, So, and, with different things, I don't think this is what we consider to be a crash. Some facts for you. A crash, we think about like 2008. I remember when
Hmm.
2008 happened. Rapid price drops. Foreclosure rates were crazy, and there were a lot of distressed sales. Okay, so
Hmm.
and we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, LaShawn, and briefly. What is just for the people out there that might not know what is a foreclosure, so that they can understand what that is? If you want to answer that question, LaShawn.
Yeah, absolutely. So a foreclosure is pretty much, in layman's term, it's pretty much when, yourself as the obligator, if that's the word,
Mhm.
you have the obligation to pay your mortgage back,
Mhm.
because you're the one who borrowed the money from that lender, and
Mhm.
you're unable to make those mortgage payments anymore. And so
Right.
once you're unable to make those mortgage payments for a considerable period of time, typically, once you start getting into, maybe 6 months or more of unpaid mortgage payments, you're not able to work out some type of modification with your lender, the lender may start the process of foreclosing on the property. So that's when they try to cease that property back as the rightful owner, versus you being the true owner of that property.
Right. Right. So whenever I go to a closing, these attorneys, they will use this lingo. I always remember this: if you pay, you stay. If you
Uh-huh.
don't, if you don't, you won't. Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
Remember that
Mhm.
for foreclosure. If you pay, you stay. If you don't, you won't. Okay.
Mhm.
So that's something to kind of understand. And today, I do feel like there's still some strong equity in homeowners' properties that they have. A lot of homeowners are capitalizing on that equity. That shows a lot about the current market situation, and also inventory is still rising. I think that's another thing that has a natural effect to maybe some price drops because the inventory is rising. I was talking with one of my builders recently, and of course, we were doing some comparative market analysis with other homes in the area because there are more homes, there's more competition. So
Mhm.
the builders are offering more incentives, they're more negotiable now, price drops because of all of that, all of those inventory increases. Okay. So
That's good. I'm glad you pointed that out, because I think it's good for people to know and have a little bit of a general understanding. We don't expect, our audience to be experts. That's why they, contact one of us or Gavin, to really, get the real good meat and potatoes of what's really going on. Let's kind of shift gears just a little bit and go into what's happening with interest rate. We talked about what's kind of happening in the market itself. Are we in a crash? But let's talk about rates right now. Are rates right now the new normal? Or should buyers still wait for that, 3 and 4% rate? In my opinion, I think where rates are right now, I think that is the new normal. When
right.
I first got in the business, which was back in 2016,
Mm,
the average interest rate was it was high fours. It was like 4.75 going into 5%. When I bought my first house in 2011, our rate was 5%. Like, that was the rate. And so now that, we're not quite at a flat 5% interest rate right now, rates are right now averaging on any given day. Sometimes you may be able to get somewhere in the mid to low fives, but on average, rates are really sticking around that 5.6, 5.75%. And I
right.
truly think that that's going to be the norm right now, unless, someone can get exactly what you're saying with the builder that may be doing some incentives and maybe offering some type of lower rate, on a special or something like that. But that's not the typical standard rate for right now. Do you get a lot of clients, of yours, Wilmot, still kind of, rate shopping, like, what's the rate? I don't know. Or do you feel like they're kind of like, oh, I'm gonna wait till rates drop some, or they're okay with where the rates are and kind of deciding to move forward?
I hear less and less of that now. I think
Yeah.
I want to say last year before, when I think we were pushing 7, even 8, I think at some
Mhm.
point, if I'm not mistaken, I was hearing a lot about that. Rates have kind of settled,
Okay.
settled down some. And I don't hear that much talk about it. I hear from time to time, but like I always tell people, what's the phrase? Marry the house,
Hmm.
date the rate, or something like that. I might be
You
butchering it,
good?
but
You hear all the phrases today.
yeah. So like, yeah, man, find that property, guys. I'm gonna preach that. Okay, if you find the property you love, marry it. Okay. All right. And then guess what? You could always change the rate later if there is a better interest rate later. So hey, you can do the refinance, to get a cheaper rate, make a lower monthly payment. But at least you get the property you want right now, because I'm telling you, there's some great deals out there, then sellers are negotiable. So you want to
Mhm.
take advantage of this kind of market when there's not as much competition.
I love that. That is so good. So let's talk about a couple just strategies, right, when it comes to interest rate. I feel like they're not as popular anymore, but I think that it's still a great strategy that, a new buyer can definitely take advantage of. Those are temporary buy downs. So you still can use, some of either your own funds or some seller concessions to kind of help you buy that rate down temporarily. I think that is still a great strategy. There's also adjustable rate mortgages. I think they get a little bit of a bad rap, but,
Mm.
still, we are with rates right now. I think it's a great opportunity if you're still a little bit payment conscious of, where my payment is, and you want to take an adjustable rate mortgage if you know that you're not going to be, staying in that house forever. I think it's a great option for you. There's still lots of down payment assistance out there. A lot
Mm.
of the state funding programs have not cut any of their assistance. So if you're looking for down payment assistance, it's out there. I'm gonna give a little shout out or plug for Palmetto Heroes. I know that program is always a hot topic around this time of year. It's gearing up to come out next month. So that's something that people can be looking forward to. And there's all kind of, different creative financing out there. You just want to make sure that you're partnering with a great lender, a great realtor that can kind of assist you with that. Anything else you want to add to that before we go to number 3, Wilmot?
No, you did it.
All right. So I think we talked a little bit about inventory and buyers' behavior. I don't know. Do you see people paying overprice or like bidding over list price right now? Have you seen any of that?
No, I haven't seen that. Don't get me wrong. We recently were in multiple offer situations. Um, only time when I'm seeing where people are paying above list, if in fact like that's strategically the house is strategically priced low to encourage multiple offers, is priced
Mhm.
below market. Sometimes that's
Do
a
people
strategy.
do sellers do that? Do they strategically like I know my house is worth more, but I want to drive up, you know, what I can earn on this. Let
Yeah,
me
it's one
confuse
of
it.
those. I've seen, yeah, absolutely. I've seen people. I mean, you got to be kind of savvy to kind of know what you're doing with that. Okay. But naturally, people say, man, I'm gonna price it high, and if I know what I want. So if I get what I want, well, I'm gonna tell you the issue with that, and I'm getting off topic. Issue with that sometimes is if you overprice a home, it's gonna sit and you won't get offers, right? But
Mhm.
then if you underprice a home, I've seen investment properties done like this where they'll price it low, or let's say they priced it at one point, they didn't get an offer, so they do this drastic cut in price, right?
Mhm.
And then they drive all these buyers into the house, and then you got all these multiple offers. And it's like, oh man, it's
Mhm.
multiple offers, so we got to go in to win, right? That's when I start seeing that. But that's more so on your investor specials, especially if you got a lot of flippers in the area and they really want that property in that area. They know it would be a great deal. At that point, you probably want to get some strong above ask price offers. So yeah.
All right. Well, that's good to know. Good stuff. Good
Mhm.
stuff. All right. So, I know we talked about buyers a lot and some of the opportunities that they have, some strategy and things like that. Let's kind of shift gears before we wrap up today to kind of wrap up about the sellers, right? So what does it really mean for, excuse you, maybe bless you, if for sellers right now, if they're thinking about selling their home, knowing that, there's a lot more competition out there with this new construction and new builds, knowing that a lot of buyers are, much more pickier right now and selective. Like you just mentioned all this strategy that's needed. Now, do you think it's a good time? We always ask the question: is it a good time to buy? But is it a good time to sell? What would you say?
Well, yeah, I still think it's a good time to sell because I do believe there's a lot of equity in a lot of these properties. Um, But I will say this, sellers have to do more now than they used to,
Mhm.
especially in the COVID market. Sellers didn't have to do anything. It wasn't that pretty much as is situation. But I would highly motivate sellers to make sure they put their best foot forward, and not just. And when I say that, I can go down a laundry list of items. However, for example, get a home inspection. This is a tip. This is free. All right. Get a home inspection before you put your house on the market. And hopefully your realtor will advise you on that. Why is that important? Because you got to understand, 9 times out of 10, that buyer that comes, they're going to get that home inspection, and you want to be able to make sure that buyer stays all the way to the closing. You do not want that buyer to go in, get a home inspection, see something that scares them out of their shoes and say, "Hey,
Mhm.
I do not want that house anymore." You know. So that's a tip. I was like, "Hey man, let's rectify these things. Make sure it's disclosing that it's been repaired." Okay. and so that all the chips are on the table. There's nothing being hidden in the property. I that's just one tip that I can give to my sellers out there that are looking to put a house in the market. Put your best foot forward, because your first impressions are the most important impression. I'm gonna be honest with you. Yeah.
I love it. Love it. Love it. Well, guys, that's it for today. We thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Teach Me Tuesday. So just as we wrap up, something to think about, like we talked about, is the market crashing or is it still booming like it was, back in 2020, 2021? We understand that we go through different seasons of the market and that creates different opportunity. But what that means for you as that buyer or consumer is that you have to have the right strategy. And so in order for you to have the right strategy, sometimes, we're not meant to do things alone. You got to team up with the right people. Give myself a call, give Wilmot a call, give Gavin a call. We're definitely happy to assist you guys, and we will see you all next week. Bye.
All right, go on.